Midway USA has ammo for your next hunt. If it quacks, honks, whistles, or cackles, snorts, gobbles, grunts, bleats, or bugles, you need to shop before your season starts at Midway USA. The right hunting ammo makes all the difference, and at Midway USA, we've got a massive selection of premium hunting ammo from top brands like Winchester, Hornady, and Federal. From big game to small varmint, you'll find the perfect load for every hunt. And with fast, reliable shipping, you'll be ready when the season starts. For just about everything for hunting, shop MidwayUSA.com. Hunting is not easy. It never has been. It takes dedication, motivation, a lot of patience, and quality gear. If you manage a food plot, put up stands, or need just one more game camera, we can help at MidwayUSA.com. We opened our doors in 1977 and continue to put customers first by offering super fast, same-day shipping. For just about everything for the outdoors, go to MidwayUSA.com.
Welcome to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. I'm Matthew of castingacross.com, where I explore the quarry and culture of fly fishing. Episode 359, and this is another addition to the Cast1 sub-series of Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. What is the Cast1 sub-series, you may ask? Well, this is essentially me diving into some topics that are introductory in nature. But don't let that scare you if you are a seasoned angler, because not only are these topics the kind of things that are very beneficial for somebody who is just getting started in fly fishing, and not to say that my other podcasts, my other episodes that aren't in this Cast1 subseries aren't approachable by a new angler, but these are more kind of focused on them. But if you are an experienced angler, then there could be some benefits for you. And there's two that I've talked about every time I've talked about this, I think. And one is if you are bringing somebody up in the fear and admonition of fly fishing, then this is a great way for you to get some ideas on how to talk about it. You can steal my words. You can pass along this podcast, or you could just tell them what I told you and then add your expertise on top of it. I think that's very, very helpful. The second thing is that there's a chance there's a gap in your knowledge. There's gaps in my knowledge. There's gaps in what I know about the things that I know a lot about. So the Cast1 series may be an opportunity for you to not only have some ammunition that you bring as you educate and disciple people in fly fishing, but also for yourself. There's a chance that I'm going to mention a book today, as I talk about books, that you haven't read or that you forgot about and you maybe knew about a long time ago. So with that said, today's episode of the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast, specifically this Cast1 subseries, is about the importance of having a fly fishing library. Now, this library might be at your local library, it might be on your Kindle, or it might be on a bookshelf. But as you probably are well aware, fly fishing has a rich literary heritage. Not only have I done other podcasts on this topic, but I've done a number of articles on it. And for the last 30 plus weeks, I have put out, with only a few exceptions, a video every Wednesday talking about a different fly fishing book. And that has been a real fun thing to do. When I started this Casting Across, I didn't think I'd be doing YouTube videos. I didn't think I'd be doing a podcast, but here we are years later, and they certainly supplement and augment what I do on Casting Across. But let's start just diving right into it. Books that I think every fly fisher should read. And there are two that stand head and shoulders above the rest. And that is Norman Maclean's A River Runs Through It and Ernest Hemingway's A Big Two-Hearted River. So these books they're books that transcend the fly fishing genre. These are books that people read that aren't fly fishers. That can't be said about every book that I'm going to talk about today, and that really can't be said about most titles that you're going to find kind of in the fly fishing section at the library or at the bookstore. But that is certainly true about these two books. So Maclean's A River Runs Through It and Hemingway's Big Two-Hearted River. Now, they are fly fishing stories, but they're definitely more than that. If you're wanting a lighthearted fly fishing story, you could read both of these books and get that, but there's certainly more going on. Without giving away the story, Hemingway's book is about a young man coming home from the war and having a challenge on a day at a trout stream and some of those reflections. And then Maclean's is about a man coming to age, learning about himself, about his brother, about his family, and about their place in the world. And so again, there's definitely more depth there. There's more notes. There's more nuance. At the same time, I think that those two books are books that some people, a lot of people, are actually aiming at when they're trying to present a voice in fly fishing literature, because those two books have stood the test of time. Now, they're also short books. They're very easy to get into. In fact, you can watch River Runs Through It, the Robert Redford flick with Brad Pitt, in a matter of hours, but you can read the book in a matter of hours also. So don't let the fact that it's a book scare you away. The same thing is true of Hemingway's. They're both very, very brief, very short, and easy to get. I think you can get Big Two-Eyed River kind of in the public domain, even online. So they're definitely worth checking out, and they are an important kind of foundational cornerstone of fly fishing literature over the last century. So that's kind of one of the styles of voices that a lot of people try to emulate. A lot of people try to capture. I would say the other story, the other set of stories, I should say, and the other voice is John Gierach's. Now, people were writing this form of literature and fly fishing narrative before Gierach really kind of got started in the late 70s and early 80s. But he has become the most prominent figure and author in the fly fishing narrative subgenre over these last few decades. And I recommend all of his works to you. I mean, titles like Trout Bum, Sex, Death, and Fly Fishing, and A Fly Rod of Your Own are, of course, classics. But I enjoyed his more recent books, All the Time in the World. And actually, after he passed away, I read All the Time in the World, and then I went back and read either Fly Fishing Small Streams or View from Rat Lake. I can't remember which one it was, back to back, to just kind of get a little bit of a perspective on his voice. But definitely humorous. Definitely, there's a warmth there. There's bits and pieces of education, which is always kind of a fun thing within fly fishing. That even when you're getting a story, you're learning something. But definitely pick up a John Gierach book and flip through it. It is, I would say, essential reading for the fly fisher. So, with that said, I'm going to move away from the narratives. And even though it's an important part of fly fishing, you could go really hours scrolling through all the different books, both fiction and nonfiction, of people talking about their experiences on the water and their experiences, the reflections of those experiences. But I would say if you read either or both, again, they're short, River Runs Through It, Big Two-Eyed River, and then a Gierach book, like, you've got a great foundation now for moving into some of Nick Lyon's writings. Or more recently, I've really enjoyed David Coggins and his writing. But these are books that are definitely worth reading. All right, but now moving to how to find fish. How to find fish. Because, yes, the stories are good. The stories are fun. At the same time, you probably want to know a little bit about how to catch fish. And yes, these books are all over the place when it comes to, there's books, the information online. But there is a lot of value in having that in front of you and taking that information in a very regimented and at your own pace way. And I'll actually recommend a few books by the same author. And one of the most prominent voices in fly fishing education over the last few decades is Orvis's Tom Rosenbauer. And the books that I would say are worth reading would be, there's a lot that are worth reading, but the Orvis Fly Fishing Guide. It's literally called the Orvis Fly Fishing Guide. It goes through all of the basics, all you need to know. How do you find fish? How do you rig your rod? What different kinds of flies are? All the basics. It's the 101 book for fly fishing. And then the 201 book is the Orvis Guide to Prospecting for Trout. So this originally, you can find the earlier editions just called Prospecting for Trout, but now it bears the Orvis label. And this is kind of the 201 level of how to find fish. So having those two books, the Orvis Fly Fishing Guide and Orvis's Prospecting for Trout, are great ways to kind of get a quick education. Now, these aren't small books, but it's a quick way to get all the information in front of you that you need to understand all of your equipment, understand what you need, how you are supposed to use it, basic things like approaching the water, making casts, seasons of trout, things like that. But then also ways to actually find where those fish are going to be at the water, given a handful of variables. Tom Rosenbauer does a great job of communicating sometimes what are complex topics in a relatively easy to digest way. So I recommend those books to you. If I were to add a couple in, some other like technique books that really helped me as a young angler, one would be Casting with Lefty Kreh by Lefty Kreh, and the other would be On the Trout Stream with Joe Humphreys by Joe Humphreys. Both of these books are very in-depth, give you lots of information on both equipment, fly selection, and also how to actually find fish and present your flies to fish. So those are both big, pretty well photographed books that are definitely worth checking out. And again, kind of like with the narrative books, there are so many different directions you can go. And then something that I think is you really need to be aware of is that you can go down a rabbit hole. Books about fly fishing for trout at night, books for particular types of casts, books about fly fishing spring creeks, books about fishing streamers or nymphs or things like that. And there's something in every one of these categories that is worth reading. I mean, there's some stuff that's not super great, but most of it, particularly if it's coming from one of the major publishers, is going to be worth reading. All right, so we talked about narrative. That's definitely one of the essential legs of the fly fishing library stool. We've talked about technique. That's another one. The third, I would say, if this is a three-legged stool, is going to be guidebooks. Guidebooks. So what is a guidebook? A guidebook is going to be a book that tells you where to find fish. Now, a good guidebook is going to give you a lot more than that. It is going to kind of give you ideas of particularly beneficial spots for different types of seasons on given rivers, specific rivers. It's going to give you a little bit of local history. It is going to give you good maps, lots of good maps. And there are a number of publishers that put these out, and each has their pros and each has their cons. But they are the Fly Fisher's Guide series, the No Nonsense Guide series, and Stackpole has a series of books like this as well. There's other ones that are out there, the Headwaters book series. I mean, there's a number of them. A Fly Fisher's Guide is probably the legacy one, the one that most folks know. And you can find these in paperback. You can also find them Kindle. And a lot of times, and I actually recommend folks check out the Kindle editions. One, you can carry it with you on your phone. Two, you can often get it very, very inexpensively. And three, you're not buying a big book that's going to be then outdated on your bookshelf in a couple of years. So I'm not going to necessarily give a book recommendation. One of the best examples, though, I will say, is Keystone Fly Fishing. That is a beautiful, incredibly informative, well-sourced, well-cited guidebook. Now, that's for Pennsylvania, so that does no good for 49 other states fly fishing, but that is an example of a really, really well put together guidebook. And if you live in the Mid-Atlantic or you like Pennsylvania fly fishing, I recommend that book to you heartily. But I like to look for books that have good maps, that have up-to-date information, and that are going to kind of give me a perspective on a river or a region that I would have to really work hard to get otherwise. And so, I mean, I collect these things. I've got them all over my bookshelf. I've got the outdated ones, but definitely, nose around, look at them, go pick them up, flip through them, see if they will be beneficial to you. These books give you the kind of information that a fly shop or a blog would really have to work very, very hard to put together and put on a website. So even though all the information's out there, these are a great place to start. And I think that every English should have a couple of these for their home waters. I know that, for the Mid-Atlantic, for New England, I've got tons and tons of these books, and I cross-reference them. And I there's even a certain sense of nostalgia of going back and looking at the way things were even 5 or 10 or 20 years ago. So those are the three main categories, in my perspective, of fly fishing books. You have your narratives, you have your technique, and you have your guidebooks. But there are other books also, and books that are worth picking up. for example, fly tying books. A book that I really enjoy that's relatively recent is Tim Camisa's Tying Euro Nymphs and Competition Favorites. This is a great fly tying book for any angler. It gives some great photography and good pictures for folks who are wanting to tie simple, efficient, fast flies, which is beneficial for both people who are hardcore anglers and fly tyers and also beginner fly tyers. Even though these are competition flies, a lot of competition flies are very, very simple. And so there are lots of beginning fly tying books, but I honestly think that Tying Euro Nymphs by Tim Camisa, even though it's primarily about Euro nymphs and other competition flies, it's a great beginner book because it's some of his flies and some of the other most prominent voices in fly fishing flies. There's lots of other good fly tying books, but that's one that I've been recommending to people who, use online videos quite a bit to learn fly tying, but they want something that's they can open in front of them and read about and kind of understand a little bit about fly tying theory, how and why a fly is tied. This book does a great job of communicating that to the reader. I'll just go through a few other books I think are really, really worth reading for the new angler or any other angler. And one of them is a book that I called the most important fly fishing book to come out last year, and that is Bo Beasley's Healing Waters. If you're not familiar with Project Healing Waters, it is a program where wounded veterans, both physically and emotionally, can get plugged in with a support group that happens on the water and in fly fishing adjacent activities. And not many fly fishing books have brought tears to my eyes in the last ever, except Healing Waters it was able to do that. It is stories of veterans and of active servicemen and women and what they have gone through and how fly fishing has helped them go through some very, very difficult things. So I would absolutely recommend checking out Bo Beasley's Healing Waters. He's a great guy and definitely has a heart for these folks. And this book is an important book that I think anybody and everybody should definitely consider reading. Another book that is worth picking up is called 50 Places to Fly Fish Before You Die by Chris Santella. Now, this seems like standard coffee table book fare, and in one sense it is, but both it and its follow-up 50 More Places to Fly Fish Before You Die, yeah, that's what it's called, they are a great way for a new angler to become acquainted with those most prominent, most popular, most productive fly fishing locations around the globe. So you're not going to get a ton of information, but you're going to get information from prominent anglers, voices in angling, as to why particular places are worth considering going on a trip. And even if you're never going to go to some of these far off places, and you're not, I'm not, I can't imagine the amount of money one would need to have to go to all 100 of these locations. But you get to understand why people want to go to Christmas Island. You understand why people want to go to Montana. You want to say why people want to go to Ireland. And you also get some beautiful photography. So these books are good books to have, both just to flip through and also to just understand a little bit more about fly fishing culture and the broader community. The last book that I will recommend on this podcast is Fly Fishing the Flats by Barry and Kathy Beck. This is the only saltwater book I am mentioning, at least the only explicit saltwater book that I'm mentioning. But this book is great, even though it's older. I think it's probably like 1998 and 1999, something like that. But the intention of this book is to take someone who's familiar with freshwater fly fishing and help them translate those skills into saltwater fly fishing. It's called Fly Fishing the Flats, but it really is any sort of coastal fly fishing. So anything that doesn't require a big giant boat with a big giant motor. So whether you are wading out or you are taking a small boat out onto the intercoastal waterway or you are surf casting with a fly rod, Fly Fishing the Flats is a great job of communicating what skills are needed, what equipment is needed, what is to be found up and down both coasts of the United States when it comes to fly fishing. And kind of along the trajectory of this podcast and talking about the newer angler or the angler who is starting to find books that hit on some introductory topics, it does a great job of, if you have started to understand what fly fishing for trout or bass looks like, now what does it mean to go fish for striped bass or for redfish or for sea trout or something like that? It's a really, really good book. and as is the case with anything the Becks do, the photography is exceptional. So that is definitely a book that is worth picking up. So I honestly could go on for days when it comes to fly fishing books. There's other kind of subgenres that I certainly have an interest in, like history of fly fishing in the United States, the culture of the Pennsylvania fly fishing legacy, the Cumberland Valley and areas like that. I like books about the science of understanding trout biology and anything and everything. So if you have a question about, hey, what would be a book that would fill this niche for me, let me know. Matthew@castingacross.com. Now is also a great time if you have any sort of question, if you have any sort of comment, even if you have any accusation. Say you're very offended I didn't mention a book. Let me know. Matthew@castingacross.com, because next week on the podcast, episode 360, will be another accusations podcast where I will interact with questions and comments and any other kinds of feedback, positive, negative, or simply inquisitive. And even though I've got a bunch of questions in the hopper, I'm always happy to throw a couple more in. So do let me know. Even let me know what your favorite book is. Some of the books that I've really enjoyed reading and sharing over the last few months of YouTube videos, but certainly over the last few years of Casting Across, have come as suggestions from readers, listeners, and viewers, and even some that have been sent to me by authors, which is always fantastic. So do let me know. Matthew@castingacross.com. This week on Casting Across, the first article that came out on the website was called The Streamside Nap, and I celebrate taking a nap on the side of a stream. There's a lot of fun in resting, and it doesn't have to be pragmatic. You don't have to do it because you're tired. You can do it just because you want to, and it's perfectly fine. Not only is it fine, I think it's worth celebrating. Culturally, it's an important part of fly fishing. So you can read that article over at Casting Across. Wednesday's article is called Videos Off the Bookshelf, and here I have been pumping out these YouTube book review videos for I think 32 weeks. And this week, I actually share videos that have like tens of thousands of more views than most of my book review videos. And there's a fly rod review. There is a how-to in guiding in finding boots, and then there is a video talking about nippers. Yes, a video talking about nippers that's gotten 15,000+ views because people they really are opinionated about nippers, and if you aren't, you will be after you watch this video. This week's recommendation on the podcast is another piece of gear from the good people over at Redington, part of the Farbank family, and it is the Ace Reel. I fish the Ace in the 5 and 6 weight, and I have it in that cool tobacco color, but it is just a solid machined reel, very, very light, very, very well designed, oversized drag knob, oversized handle. It has all the bells and whistles that you're looking for in a reel, and at a great price for a disc drag machined reel, coming in at for the trout sizes under $250 and for the larger ones under $275. I'll put a link for the Ace reel over in the show notes of this podcast page over at castingacross.com. But if you're looking for a full featured reel without spending $500, I think you could definitely do a whole lot worse than looking at the Ace. These things were very, very popular when they first came out. They were hard to get a hold of. Mine, actually, the one that I bought, it was supposed to be back ordered, and somehow it showed up. So thanks, Redington. But I really, really enjoy mine. Handles fish well, nice startup drag, just comfortable in hand, which I think goes a long way. So definitely check that reel, the Ace from Redington, out. Thanks for listening to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app and rate the podcast in Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Then head over to castingacross.com for 3 posts a week on the people, places, and things that go into the pursuit of fish.
Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, FishingBooker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, FishingBooker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. FishingBooker. Fishing trips made easy.
Hey guys, this is Melissa Bachman. Are you ready to stop spooking deer before it's even time to hunt them? Then you need the new Flex S Dark cellular trail camera from SpyPoint. With a no-glow flash option, long-lasting solar power, and a ton of settings that can be changed anytime through the SpyPoint app, there are no more excuses for letting your deer get wise before the season even starts. So check it out for yourself and see why the SpyPoint Flex S Dark is the unstoppable and undetectable scouting tool you need for your next hunt.